Thank you for taking the time. Eric, I'll first throw it to you. How's
Sure.
your day going, and how long did you spend co-directing this wonderful, wonderful feature?
Oh, day's going great. Just got lost in Central Park before coming here for this interview, so I had a perfect
Oh,
New York moment. And yeah, man, I'm ready to rock.
so how long did you actually spend? I want to hear both of your perspectives on this. How long did you spend on Alex versus Arod? Because sometimes
Sure.
one director or one producer knows about more of a process than others, and you find out that everyone's kind of specialized.
Man, yeah, okay, sure. I didn't see exactly where you're going with that question. I mean, we were both on it pretty much the whole run, which was like 38 something months. So is that right? Am I doing my math right? Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
3 years and
yeah, it
months.
was
So
All-Star break 3 years ago when I first had lunch with, I think, Alex, out in LA. So, and I count that as day one for sure. It's been fun the last few weeks to just be talking baseball with Arod, actually, because Arod, man, nobody knows baseball like that guy. So, but yeah, an intensive process, I would say. It was the premise of this project is like, we have to talk about the tough stuff. Don't know when, but like that's why we're here. And he had to embrace that and be willing to do that for this thing to work, but that takes time.
Okay, so you just went into one of my obsessions which is what you actually call celebrities versus the nicknames. So for example, if we're talking about Robert De Niro, we're going to go like Robert De Niro, like one word. And then you know that once you know him, you're supposed to call him Bobby. But there's definitely got to be a third name. Like if you're the doorman in his building or something like that, there may be another name. Is he A-Rod? Is he Alex? Does he have a third name?
Oh my God, you're bringing up, what did his daughter tell us? I
oh
can't,
God,
I'm blanking on this right now.
I
Uh,
know. His
yeah,
daughters have a name for him too. We didn't work it into the project, but yeah, they I can't remember.
yeah, that Hal or something like that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a silly name.
it's a silly name, but Alex is very like because A-Rod was, I mean, it was definitely authentic to who he was back then,
Yeah.
but it was also like a creation of, A-Rod was ahead of his time because when A-Rod exploded into the cultural zeitgeist, it was pre-Instagram and pre-social media and pre all of that. Like it was, and it was real and it was ahead of his time, but it was ahead of him. It took him over, and in some ways, like it created his downfall as well.
Like putting A-Rod on the back of his cleats. I remember I was a young man at the time and living in Seattle. I grew up there, but I was a Mariners fan in my youth, and I remember being whatever 11 or 12, and I remember it was a controversy amongst like my friends and my parents' friends, especially that he put his nickname on his cleats. It's like what an ego, like today no one will give a shit, like who cares? It's a cool nickname, like do it. But
Yeah.
back then it was like, yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think hate is a very strong word. I hated A-Rod. I think all of us really like Alex. We really think that he's this
Yeah.
intellectual guy. Do you remember, Eric, where you were on the journey when you kind of realized that there was this intellectual, well-spoken, pleasant human being in there?
Yeah, I mean, pretty early on, actually. Which fortunately he showed that side of him early, and then there were bumps along the way as we got into more sensitive subject matter, and I met A-Rod later on. But initially, yeah, I mean, he gave us essentially he didn't intend to give us the title of the project, but he basically gave us the title of the project in one of our very first conversations with him, where he was like, we had a lot of like what we could do, what this needs to be, if it's going to be worth our time, how are we going to hold each other accountable, like creatively, how do we approach the filmmaking, not just the subject matter, all that. And keeping him in as a part of the process so that it's to build trust, and have a relationship there that you can lean on when times get hard, and after all these sort of conversations, he sort of pulled Gotham and I aside as we were like going to catch our Uber to the airport or whatever, and he was like, look, like all that stuff is like great and we're going to get into it. But I mean, really, like for me, like it's very simple. Like I started as this little kid named Alex, who's an underdog. Somewhere along the way, I turned into something called A-Rod, and I've just been trying to figure out how to be Alex again. And we were both, Gotham and I like looked at each, I remember talking like all the way to the airport. We were like, I think that's the movie. Like, I think that's the story right there, like, how do we do that? And kind of that was so he actually, like, Alex, it's really interesting. He like even prefaced saying that by like, this might sound kind of stupid, but and I was like, dude, that's not stupid at all. That's kind of brilliant, And so that's the intellectual. So when he said that, I mean, I was like, oh, this project has the right mojo. Like, this is good. Like, we're gonna go far with this.
Gotham, is that how you recognize and remember it as well?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I'm a Red Sox fan, diehard Red Sox fan. So man,
Yeah.
every part of my being hated A-Rod, like
Mets fan, yes. Yeah.
So like I was primed to like no. But yeah, early on, what Eric is describing, I also had lunch with him very, very early on, and we talked about like some Basquiat painting that he was
Oh
obsessed
yeah.
with. And it's about Basquiat's blind spot and the things that are right there, but that you can't see. And, Alex was like, that's me. Like, that's like, I figured out my blind spot on the baseball field. I figured out how to see a curve. I struggled to see it, like in terms of all the mistakes I was making. And I was like, that is not A-Rod. Like,
Yeah.
this is like a thoughtful, worldly guy. And I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. I'm getting on board this ride.
Maybe he just read us right the way like an
Yeah.
all-time great hitter reads a pitcher, but like talking to two artists about art, is like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's go,
So it sounds like you two had a lot of challenges in this. You had a subject that wanted to be portrayed a certain way, which ultimately you figured out. You had decades of history to focus in a short window. You had lots of clearances and things you wanted to use from other sources. What do you think was the biggest challenge of the whole Alex versus A-Rod project?
I mean, I mean, you did a good job of encapsulating because a lot of moving
Yeah,
parts.
all of that.
There's again, it's the premise of the project is like there's a public narrative around this guy, Arod, that's been there for a long time. And that's great because you get to use that, like it's there, and it's not just on the field, it's off the field, and this New York persona that sort of came about. But now, like, well, now we need to get your version of it, Alex's version of it. That's not easy because it's really difficult stuff. And, as much as it was about PD usage. It was about how that impacted him, how it impacted his relationships. And then turns out, like, why did he make all those mistakes? Well, it goes back to his childhood and unpacking that. So it's just like there's a lot to get through, and it's hard stuff, and it's personal stuff, and it's stuff.
Definitionally traumatic, right? Like
Yeah.
that, like triggering by definition, hard stuff.
Outside of his therapy, he hadn't really talked much about it. And, therapy is definitionally very intimate. And so how do you capture that? And again, that's the reason it takes all this time.
Well,
Patience.
Patience indeed. And speaking of that, last question before I let you two go, are we allowed to know which project is coming next from both of you or either of you, or we just have to follow on Instagram and IMDb and that's it?
Gotham.
Yeah, I don't know, man, if there's anything sort of publicly out there. I mean, look, I'm not that dissimilar. There's always like many things going on and always focused in some ways on the next thing. So yeah, there's nothing I can necessarily talk about just yet, but it's big and fun, and I'm a storyteller, so I just am in pursuit of great stories and great characters.
Religion of sports, liquid comics, etc. Your track record precedes itself. So looking forward. Thank you both for your time and congratulations on Alex versus A-Rod.
Thanks, Darren.
Paltrow.